why did you want to write this memoir?
I wanted to get the story straight, and I wanted to explain a lot of things in between the lines that were never revealed. And looking at the way in which you're perceived, you have to admit, I've been misunderstood. Even when I wrote Foreigner, I started with the words, there are no words I can use because the meaning still leaves for you to choose. I mean, I already felt that I was being misunderstood. And so the artist, to try and explain himself, has got to work a bit harder.
When we watched you performing at Hyde Park, I got to sit right up front, and there were all these people dancing around us. We saw a mother and her daughter, and they were exuberant watching you. How is that to be on the receiving end of that kind of affection?
Well, I feel it, but obviously what I'm giving out is what they're receiving. I'm quite honestly trying to be myself. It's not that easy when you've got a spotlight. I always try to be honest and give what I have, especially, from my heart, and my music says it all. I'm feeling that I'm kind of helping people try to avoid some of the mistakes that I've made. And everybody makes mistakes, but it's a process of learning. And my songs always represented the growth of my journey and where I was going, even though I didn't know where I was going. But I was on the road to Findout, name of my book, and the name of my tour. I think my songs have always been kind of profound in some way, because they're coming from a real place, they resonate, and so a lot of them are so relevant to the world today. I mean, wild world, come on. And Peace Train, waiting for the train to arrive. Boy, do we need it. Yeah, I mean, they're relevant.
It seems that a lot of this memoir is about a search for identity. Is there an identity, a self that you feel you've found? Is there something that you were searching for that you feel you have found?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I can put my name together and join Yusuf with Cat Stevens, I think that's symbolic.
Was that hard to do? Because you had cast one aside.
Yeah, no, not difficult. You just kind of you put one before the other. It was very simple. But no, there was a transformation of let's say attitude, and just to embrace and to understand that what I wrote about was totally relevant to who I am today. I mean, there's no way that I could fake it. I had to be honest, and I was when I wrote, and so therefore they're reflections of the history, which brought me here, and have helped in my involvement to the person I am.
Tell me about the origin of Cat Stevens, the name.
The name, well, cats are always a little bit independent, and I had a girlfriend who looked at me one day and said, "Ooh, you look like a cat," and I went, "Oh, that stuck," And when I was looking for a name, because it was going to be difficult to go into the record store and ask for like Stephen Dimitri Giorgio's latest album, and I thought, no, Cat Stevens. Yeah, I'll keep Stephen, and I got the cat.
Do you think you would have been as successful as Stephen Dimitri Giorgio?
You can't play with fate. Fate does it, and then you just look back and reflect and say, well, I could have done it better.
But do you think that this unique name set you apart in a way that was helpful for you in selling records?
Yeah, a good name is always important. I mean, so but names represent the personality, and I suppose, there is a bit of that independent cat within me, I mean, I try to land on my feet all the time, and you don't really own me, nobody owns me. Those kind of characteristics, I think, that describes me.
You write about, you were a success very early on. You reached superstardom in your teens, but that, as you write, was also quite difficult.
Yeah, I think the problem with success is that, it kind of detaches you from reality in some sense, and you have to find your balance. Who are you? Are you that person on the screen, on the stage, or is there something more to you? Do you have more dimensions? And oftentimes, I did have another dimension. Actually, I put that into my songs. But still, I was looking for some big answers, and I didn't have that with me.
How can you be writing something that it so profoundly touches people, but to be so unsure of yourself?
I think probably the greatest love songs are the sad ones. So maybe it's the absence of, having that answer that drives the music and the inspiration. Probably, that's quite a lot to do with it.
You describe, in your early days, you describe yourself as at times intolerable. You describe scenes of wanting to be seated at the perfect table at the restaurant, not wanting to be awakened before noon. Where did that come from?
That was the 60s. When I went to the 70s, it was all sorted.
But where did that come from deeper inside? What makes you think that way about yourself to get to that point?
Well, you see that Elton John's doing it, so you think, well, I should do this. I should get the same treatment, shouldn't I? I suppose when you go to a restaurant and you think, I should have that table, not that jerk. Probably that kind of the ego thing is really based on something which is insecure. So you want to be a little bit more, you want to be confident, and the only way to do that is to kind of become a bit bold, a bit bigger, a bit more exaggerated, and demand things that you think you deserve. But really, it's all based on insecurity, I think.
How is that dealing with those ups and downs of being successful, being accepted, being loved by people?
I think the failures that I had in my life were probably more important than the successes in some sense, because then it's like real. And when I had TB, there was a whole turnaround. Suddenly I had to readjust myself and confront my mortality. That got me deeper into thinking, and that really reflected in my music and came out with something much better. So I think sometimes it's the failures that build characters more than the successes.
You did a lot of spiritual searching. You grew up going to a Catholic school. You sampled Buddhism. What all did you try spiritually?
Well, the bookshop is full of lots of different, you say, views of life and the universe and beliefs and philosophies. So I was digging around everywhere, numerology, I thought, maybe Pythagoras worked it out. Maybe it's a numerical thing. And I thought, no, that's not it. I think the most important thing was when I finally went through as much as I could and reached the Quran at the end. And that just brought everything together.
What was it about Islam that centered everything for you?
I think Islam is if you look at it objectively, it's the involvement of, all the beliefs of the world up until that point, but then God saying, now I'm going to clarify it, because things get distorted.
Was it, do you think, deep down inside that touched you in that way? There are a lot of religious people who would say, I find God through Catholicism or Buddhism, or what was it for you about Islam?
Well, Islam it's in the word, it's in the name. It means surrender. I found that it was to do with that word, surrender to God, and also it comes from the word peace. There was peace. I'd written about Peace Train. Come on. This is like, wow. So this is the train that's going to take me there.
You describe a scene where you go swimming, you're visiting some friends in Malibu, and there is something that you describe as almost a divine intervention of sorts.
From the outside, it might look like a strange coincidence, but to me, it was a life and death issue that was so profound. Everything rested on it. My life, my future.
What happened when you were swimming in Malibu?
Well, Well, in Malibu, it was the turning point. It was the point where I had lost the ability to swim, to survive. The ocean, massive currents, were taking me out, not in. And the only one I could call on at that moment was God. And he answered me.
What did you say?
God, save me and I'll work for you. It was a deal, right out there in the ocean. And the only witnesses I had were the ocean and my songs, I suppose, because if you really analyze my songs, you'll see that it all leads perfectly towards that point. Even the song called On the Road to Findout said the answer lies within, and in the end I'll know. And on the way I wonder, and then pick up a good book. Wow, that's what happened to me after that.
You were swimming and you thought you were going to drown.
I was drowning, yeah. Yeah, I was definitely drowning.
In the book, you describe a wave coming, pushing you to shore. Some skeptics could say, it sounds like coincidence.
Yeah. I was in the Pacific Ocean, and, it was probably a bad time to go swimming. I lost all my power and strength. I was now facing death on the horizon, looking directly at me. And in that most fragile moment, when I had perhaps seconds left, I used them to call out to God. And he answered me by sending a little wave that just pushed me back to shore.
But you didn't tell the friends that you were with that day.
Why should I? That's between me and God.
It was a profound moment for you personally. And that, you think, is what really changed, moved you closer.
I kind of forgot about it afterwards, and then, things happened, and I got the Quran, and suddenly I didn't really put these two things together, but then afterwards I realized that, wow, that must have been like the response from my request for help, and the Quran came to help.
You write that as you told family and friends about your conversion to Islam, that you felt that they knew it was the end of your career.
Maybe my brother was a little bit worried that this might put a hole in the family boat.
Were you a little bit worried?
Why should I be? No, this was like, whoa, this was finding what I was looking for.
But in so many minds, you had what so many people want. You had fame and success, stardom.
In a way, all that was a byproduct of what I was searching for, So it's like, I got all these things, but in a way, it didn't make me any better. It didn't achieve what I was looking for and what I was working for, what I was searching for. But it came, and with that came a responsibility also to be, I would say, honest.
Why did you have to, in your mind, leave music? Why couldn't you continue both of these loves?
I think that I'd achieved everything that I would want to achieve in music. I'd done it. I've been there. I've been up to the top of the mountain. Now, where do you go from there, right? So you're looking for something that's it's imperceptible. But what I'd found was perceptible. And even though you couldn't kind of put it in a box or, wrap it up, it was something that was setting me free from the chains and the burdens, because even success can be such a burden. So it actually let me, gave me a chance to be free and to get a life. So, I mean, what I'm saying is, music, of course, was great as a vehicle for me, using it as a vehicle. But when I got where I wanted to go, it kind of became redundant for a little bit, and
because you were getting that from God, from your
from learning how to live, try to find the answers that I've been searching for. I mean, all those answers, all the boxes were ticked, and so therefore, all those questions in my songs were now answered. Now, what am I going to write about? So really, I kind of, it's not as if my well dried up, but there was nothing left there to examine.
How difficult was it to auction off your instruments, to part with the past, the music in that way?
I was really learning so much that I didn't find it difficult to leave a couple of instruments behind.
It's hard to imagine from the outside, someone whose life is centered around that.
My life wasn't centered around music. It was centered more around my search. And the music was a byproduct in a way. I mean, obviously it meant a lot to me and I was sincere about it. But again, you've got to look at the objective, the intention behind those songs. What was it? I mean, was it really just to like get a hit record? No, I was really searching.
Why did you believe for a while that music was forbidden? And then why the change?
It took me time to realize that a lot of what I was told in the beginning when I became a Muslim was not exactly right. So, I mean, they told me it was warning me about music and being involved and all that. It took me time to learn that no, of course not. Islam doesn't forbid anything that's healthy and morally good. So some kind of adjustment in I think other people's views was needed, not my view.
How do you reconcile the you who put that aside with the you who embraced music again?
You go through stages. At one time you can fall in love. And next time you're having such an argument with a person, you say, what the hell, get out of my life, So, I mean, you change. Your attitude changes according to circumstance. Context is key.
Your son brought a guitar back into the house. You say a more puritanical you, an earlier version of you, would have not allowed that. Describe when your son brings a guitar back into the house, in essence, ushering music back into your life.
That was a beautiful moment. I mean, just seeing the guitar there back in the house again, and I'd become much more relaxed about the whole issue, and I suddenly saw there was a way now that perhaps I could use music again to build bridges and help people to feel more relaxed and feel comfortable again, especially with the way the world was going. We need peacemakers, and I was one of them, and I am one of them.
You're very vocal in your concerts, in your shows. When in the one that I watched, you were very vocal for supporting Palestinians in Gaza. Why are you so political on stage?
I'm not really political. No, I disagree with that. I'm human. Back in the 70s, I was an ambassador. So back in the 70s, I was an ambassador for UNICEF. So I've always been interested in humanitarian work. So when you're looking at problems that are facing us in the world today, you can't ignore them.
You have been very active in charities, Muslim Aid, building schools here in the UK. This community center that we're in is something that you've done.
Yeah, well, this is, as you can see, it's only temporary at the moment.
Work in progress.
We're in work in progress, and this is based on Abraham. Actually, the idea of this center is Abraham, because he symbolizes the unity that there is between so many faiths, and I'm always looking for that unity that we can build, our relationships and improve our love and our peace and our life together. I'm always looking for that.
You bring up in your memoir, you bring up one of the more controversial periods of your life with the Satanic Verses, Salman Rushdie's book. You were going back to kind of explain from your perspective how that chapter unfolded. I wonder how you see that, what you would do differently in your reaction today.
Isn't it important to get the whole picture? I mean, it is really important. And the problem was, I think the whole thing was incredibly heated up and covered with all sorts of, controversies that weren't of my making, mostly of the press. But I would stand still on two basic things. One is truth, and the other one is history. So, anyway, the way in which I was portrayed, I wish it would have been better, but I don't think it was only my fault. I think it was mostly the media and the politics at the time. Iran, after all, had just, suddenly it was there, and it was a difficult thing for a lot of people to deal with, and even for Muslims.
On page 392, you write that not mentioning the questionability of the fatwa was probably one of the biggest mistakes of my early Muslim life. What do you mean about questionability?
The problem with my statement at the beginning, at the very beginning, I was just quoting history, if you like, or fact. So I was saying, look at the Bible, look at the scriptures, you'll see what the attitude is towards blasphemy. And that was what I said. And they turned that into, and they never asked me the question, well, do you accept the fatwa?
What's the answer?
What do you believe about the fatwa? I don't accept the fatwa because it goes against the process of law. And those were the two things I stood upon, was like, number one, history, this is a fact, and the other thing is law, I stick by it.
Do you wish you had just said that back then?
Yes, probably.
But then there were those kind of unfortunate statements, you would say misedited or taken out of context on that 1989 British show that then got repeated in the media.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a British sense of humor, so I took it in a kind of slightly comical direction. It wasn't a good thing to do because nobody laughed and there was no canned laughter. So, I made a mistake in thinking that people might get the joke. But it was a serious issue, so I shouldn't have really done that. But people
The joke,
didn't.
you mean saying,
Whatever,
I would have
whatever.
preferred the real thing, not an effigy.
Whatever.
When you saw the headlines after that, do you worry even today?
Let's get off this subject, please.
You bring it up in the book, so it's
No, it's only a little part of the book. It's perhaps, 20 pages, and there's 500 pages.
But it seems like with this book, you partially wanted to set the record straight from your perspective.
That's right. I think I've done that.
You write that one of the great fears of a songwriter, one of your fears is drying up creatively. Is that something you still worry about?
Not really. There's a verse in the Quran that says, if all the seas were ink and all the trees were pens, you would not dry up the words, or would not exhaust the words of God. And I think that look at how many books there are in any library. There's so much to learn. I'm driven by adventure and by searching for more knowledge, wherever that knowledge takes me. Now, I would say that songs also help me to progress, in my search for knowledge.
Did you, when you took a break from music, did you listen to music?
Not too much. I wasn't really interested too much because I was deeply into education, schools, and to charity work, and that was really my life and my family, of course. Learning how to be a daddy, wow, nobody teaches you that,
What are you like as a dad?
I'm great. Oh. No, I think I'm great. I think I've got a few rough edges.
What did your wife think when you went back to music?
Well, I think she was kind of pleased because it made me a much more relaxed person. I think I needed something, like that. And she's my biggest critic. Oh, well, no, really, she's my biggest fan. No, she really supports me a lot.
You had various muses that you wrote songs about. The first cut is The Deepest, Christine, a girlfriend.
Yes.
Carly Simon was a muse. When you think back to those muses, those songs, what comes to mind?
Well, I certainly can't play them in front of my wife. So I keep them as I put a little kind of lid on those things. No, I mean, it's reality, but I'm in a great place now. So when I sing Hard-Headed Woman today, I've changed the words. I say, I found myself a hard-headed woman. But I didn't find out how hard-headed she was until I married her.
You write that you want to be a prism for the West to understand Islam.
Yeah, it's not as if I want to be. I think I am a kind of a reflection of two. They're not disparate cultures. They're just two different ways of looking at things. So in the Quran it says, we've made you nations and tribes that you may get to know one another, and not to despise one another. And so differences of East and West, they're kind of rich things. They're things we should be enjoying and, rejoicing in.
You see yourself as an ambassador of sorts?
I never got paid for this job, but no, perhaps I did get paid.
That might not be true.
No, not true. I did get paid very well for being a peacemaker, and that's what I still am.
You describe yourself early on as quite shy, as struggling to know quite what to say between sets. Has that gone away?
Oh yeah, I've got it completely scripted now. There was a time when I'd be so embarrassed listening back to some of those tapes, and what I'd say in the middle, between songs, I'd go, shut up, But now I kind of know now a little bit more the art of, chat.
Do you still feel like you're shy?
I'm hesitant about who I'm talking with, making sure I understand exactly who I'm talking to, and I think that's an important thing. And if you've got an audience that's already in love with you, you don't have too much of a problem, to be honest. Let's face it.
You write so much about searching. Are you still searching? Is there still something else?
Oh, you never stop searching. I mean, you just look at any library, look at all the books you haven't read.
How is it to sit down and write something so exhaustive, so personal, to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful?
I left quite a lot of the ugly out, actually, so to be honest.
You were hard on yourself at
really?
times.
Oh, that's good to know. That's fair. That's good. Well, I do like to be fair. But as I said, we've always got, things that we don't want to remember. I try to be honest in my writing of songs and in the writing of my book.